Kurt Cobain's Aria Pro 2 guitar is one of the lesser known and seemingly low importance instruments that he played live, but it holds a special place in the early days of Nirvana's rise. Sure, it's not the prettiest thing to look at, but lasting through 143 days and 3 different drummers during the latter part of the Bleach era, this one was a workhorse and enabled Kurt to get the job done. In this video, like the many prior installments in the series, we will look at its origins, the notable shows which it was yielded, and its present-day whereabouts. The Japanese company Aria was known for producing affordable but well-made instruments that usually copied the famous designs of companies like Fender and Gibson. The Aria Pro 2 CS-250, part of their Cardinal series, were produced from 1981 to 1983. They were built by the Matsumoto company in their Nagano factory, which built for other brands including Univox, Greco, Ibanez, Yamaha, Hondo, and Gibson. By the early 1970s, Matsumoto became one of the first guitar makers to use CNC machines, achieving substantial cost savings by automating rough shaping and basic assembly. Despite this, around 60% of the construction process, including planing, fretting, and assembly, was still done by hand. The Aria Pro 2 CS-250 guitar that Kurt Cobain owned is obviously a copy of the Gibson SG. They have a solid, double cutaway, string-through ash body with a shape similar to the Gibson SG, but minus the pickguard. They have a 3-piece maple bolt-on neck with a rosewood fingerboard, which is a difference as the Gibson SGs typically have a set neck. The CS-250s have 22 frets with dot inlays with the Gibson scale of 24.75 inches and only came with a thin matte transparent finish. Kurt's Aria was of the walnut variety, but they also sold them in Paduke red. They came from the factory with 2 zebra-looking Protomatic 4 humbuckers controlled by a 3-way selector switch, another switch for coil splitting allowing for the option of near single coil sounds, but also a 3rd toggle switch for in and out of phase switching. Although Kurt sported both zebra humbuckers for the first show, within a week it received a black humbucker in the bridge position apparent to be a Seymour Duncan. Possibly a Duncan distortion or 59, as it doesn't appear to have the Seymour Duncan logo on it, although what it actually was is anybody's guess. It had both an individual volume and tone control knob for each pickup, although by the end of its run, Kurt had removed most of the control knobs, leaving only the bridge pickup volume control and the pickup selector to avoid changing the tone unintentionally. This was one of the annoying things about using a right-handed guitar flipped for left-handed playing, as you are more likely to strike the controls when strumming, with them being placed at the top. When the main portion of the body was auctioned off later on, it still had the neck plate containing the engraved serial number 2011650, and on the very small remnant of the neck still bolted on, we can see that someone had carved Nirvana into it, presumably Kurt. Kurt's Aria is often mistaken as a CS-350 model, as they appear very similar, except the CS-350 has a gloss finish, and aside from walnut, they could be had in transparent red or cobalt blue. They also supposedly had different pickups, being Protomatic 5 instead of the 4 like on Kurt's, and the tuning heads on the CS-250 were listed as chrome covered opposed to the heavier chrome plated die cast on the CS-350. On Kurt's CS-250, at the very top of the headstock, it read Aria Pro 2, and in between the tuning pegs, it read Cardinal Series Original Custom Body, patent number 555719, all in gold lettering. The CS-250 model was printed in black lettering on the white truss rod cover. Prior to the debut of the Aria, in the first 4 months of 1990, Nirvana toured the Pacific Northwest, Midwest, and Northeast regions of the U.S., supporting their debut album Bleach, released in June of the previous year. It seems the guitar he was using directly prior to the Aria was the last survivor of his homemade Mustangs, the one in which he painted surf green. That guitar can be seen along with his red Epiphone ET270 in the video for the Sub Pop version of In Bloom. That guitar's touring life was very short-lived, being first played in Amherst, Massachusetts on April 27th and then smashed just 3 days later on April 30th in Philadelphia. These were the guitars which they cut out the bodies and slapped them together in a garage using Chandler necks. Of the other 2, one was light blue with the Jesus pickguard, which was smashed on February 14th of 1990 at the Kennel Club in San Francisco, and the other was pink and smashed on February 16th at Bogart's in Long Beach, California, then glued back together and smashed the next night in Tijuana, Mexico. And just a few days before the debut of the Aria, on April 26, 1990, Kurt smashed his red Epiphone ET-270 at the Pyramid Club in New York City. This seemed to be Kurt's main guitar used in the Smart Sessions demos for Nevermind, and also the main guitar which he played live during the first 4 months of 1990. It's not clear where or when exactly Kurt acquired this walnut beast or where he got it from, but Kurt's Aria CS-250 was likely first used on May 2, 1990 at Milestone in Charlotte, North Carolina. In the audio from this show is where we hear Kurt improvise some alternate lyrics in their cover of Love Buzz to convey perhaps a negative initial impression of this new guitar, ad-libbing that his new guitar cost him $125 and it really sucks. And because of this, many people are saying that he hated the Aria, and perhaps he did at first. But for him to have kept it around and used it over a 5-month period, I think he grew to like it a little bit once he changed the bridge pickup. People say that these have a fairly thin neck profile, which is what Kurt usually preferred, and it was made in the same factory as his multiple Univox High Flyers. But certainly, it was not one of his all-time favorites. It was for damn sure not a Fender. In this period during 1990, they were on the cusp of making it, but they hadn't made it yet. They were still on the small regional Sub Pop record label and had a major label contract in reach. So this guitar could have been basically just a holdover for economic reasons. It's interesting to note that Julian's auction's description actually states that it was first used in Atlanta on May 6 of 1990, so that appears to be a mistake. Kurt's Aria could have been used on May 4th of 1990 at the Masquerade in Tampa, Florida, or on May 5th, 1990 at the Einstein A Go-Go in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, although no photos or videos exist. However, it was definitely used on May 6th of 1990 at the Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia, as amateur video and audio recordings of this show are available, and this seems to be the last show with the stock zebra stripe pickup at the bridge. Next up, on May 9th of 1990 at Stashes in Columbus, we have pictures of Kurt using the Aria, debuting a new black bridge humbucker. At this show, we see Kurt wearing a rare Sub Pop 200 shirt, which was a compilation album released in December of 1988. It featured many songs which were the first releases on some otherwise unattainable from bands like Tad, The Fluid, Nirvana, Mudhoney, Soundgarden, Green River, Screaming Trees, and more. Nirvana's song Spank Through was featured on the recording. On the following night, May 10th of 1990, at Shorty's Underground in Cincinnati, Ohio, and May 11th, 1990, at the Tulsa Theater in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Kurt's Aria was likely used. Unfortunately, there's no photos or videos from either of those shows that have surfaced. We have a whole bunch of pics of the Aria Pro from May 13th, 1990, at Duffy's Tavern in Lincoln, Nebraska. This may have been the last show that we ever have audio recordings for with Chad Channing, and lucky for us, it's of pretty good quality. The Aria was also confirmed on Chad Channing's last show, which was on May 14th, 1990 at the Garage in Denver, Colorado. After this show, the band went on a 3-month break and would not return playing live until mid-August 1990. August 16, 1990 was the first show with Dale Crover returning on drums at Calamity Jane's Nashville, Nevada and Las Vegas, but we have 0 pictures. On August 17, 1990 at the Hollywood Palladium in Hollywood, California, we have pics of the Aria being used, but also the debut of a new rare authentic Mosrite Gospel. Oh yeah, go check out my other video on that guitar when you finish if you haven't watched it yet. After this show, Kurt went on to start favoring the Mosrite Gospel. The Aria Pro 2 appeared to be used sparingly at the August 19th show at the Casbah in San Diego, as most pictures feature the Mosrite Gospel. The next night, August 20th at the Crest Theater in Sacramento, he used both guitars again. No photos or videos are available for the August 21st, 1990 show at the Warfield Theater in San Francisco, and for the August 23rd show at the Melody Ballroom in Portland, the only pictures I could find feature the Mosrite. From the grainy video footage we have from the August 24th show at the Moore Theater in Seattle, we can see the Aria used on a couple of songs, but Kurt mostly played his Mosrite Gospel. Dale Crover played his last show with Nirvana on August 25th, 1990 at the New York Theater in Vancouver. There are pictures showing the Aria was used along with the Mosrite. Kurt last used the Aria Pro 2 CS-250 when Nirvana headlined the Motorsports International Garage in Seattle on September 22, 1990. It was a larger show for them with reportedly 1,500 people in attendance. I briefly touched on this in my Mosrite video, as it was the only show with Dan Peters on drums, who had joined while his band Mudhoney was on hiatus. He also played on the Sliver single, which was recorded in August. This show was a major turning point in Nirvana history, as it was a packed, passionate performance, and you can really tell the crowd was into it, and it was evident that Nirvana would soon be the next big thing. It is said that many record label A&R staff were in attendance for this show. Interestingly, Dave Grohl was in the audience just weeks before joining Nirvana and playing his first show with the band on October 11, 1990 at the North Shore Surf Club in Olympia. Shortly after this show, Dan Peters was let go, not because he was a bad drummer, but because Kurt had high expectations. He wanted John Bonham with backing vocals, so when Kurt had his chance to get Dave Grohl, he jumped at it. At the conclusion of this Motorsports International Garage Show, Kurt's Aria Pro 2 CS-250 was famously twirled around and bashed up by Kurt. A man named Richard Newland, who was working security, grabbed the main part of the body and took it home. It was later displayed at the Mopop exhibit in Seattle before it was eventually auctioned off by Julian's Auctions. Another unknown fan picked up the smaller piece of the body and has later posted a picture of it on the Ground Guitar website stating it was a good show. Julian's Auctions has stated that Richard Newland, who worked security at the event, said that Cobain asked if he could remove the pickups from the guitar, to which Newland agreed, and that is why the body was bare except for the bridge and a small broken piece of the neck pickup trim ring. So it's a possibility, yet a small one, that the humbucker removed from the body of the broken Aria was later installed in the white K-Strat, the Japanese white left-handed Strat that he acquired around October of 1990. Kurt's Aria hammered at Julian's Auctions for the price of $81,250 in 2018 to an unknown buyer. The Aria Pro 2 obviously isn't as iconic as some of Cobain's other guitars, but for fans who favor the band's early years, it represents the commoner, punk rock, do-it-yourself mentality of Nirvana's pre-Fame period when they were basically an underground band. Cobain's use of these less celebrated guitars, whether it's the Aria Pro 2 or others, shows how his sound was more about the songwriting, melodies, and emotion rather than owning the most expensive and prestigious high-end gear. May this attitude resonate deeply with fans and also young musicians using whatever instruments they have or can afford. That's it for today. Please subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming videos.